Mic check 1 2 1 2. All right, it looks like we should be good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting coffee hour. All right, we got some news that came out. I don't know if this stream is going to be all that juicy, because a lot of the best news was covered pretty much at the beginning of the week when Trump had visited Saudi Arabia, and we had that flurry of good news, especially for tech companies, AI companies, and chip manufacturers, semiconductors, all that stuff, right? I think that was the best news that we were ever going to get this week. But Trump did mention that some more good news is either coming, well, he would have said it by now, but it was supposed to either come on Thursday or Friday. So maybe something's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, I will be sure to cover it. All right. So again, we got a lot to cover. We're going to be covering, quick portfolio update. Then we're going to be moving into this golden dome thing that, is being talked about, right? So if you want to get on the ground floor of that and invest in the companies that are going to be directly supporting that effort, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking a little bit about Nvidia, some CoreWeave stuff. All right, CoreWeave is in the news, and I don't know if you guys know, but the whole IPO thing would have been, if you got in on that IPO, it would have been pretty lucrative at this point. But hey, it is what it is, right? And then we'll talk about Apple. And then a little bit of crypto news. At the very end. We'll just cover some of that, and then we'll move into the market news like we always do, and then a deep dive into the portfolio stuff. All right. Yo, Alex, what's up, man? Hey, thanks for joining. All right. So let me just have this sip of coffee, and then we'll get started. All right, let's go. Crap, where is this? Let me move this phone. Move it over here. All right, cool. All right, let's get into it, guys. All right, so welcome back to the channel as always. All right, so first we're gonna start with a portfolio update. Nothing new in here, right? There's nothing new, nothing exciting in here. We do have, we're just down $15,000, which is nice. I think last time we did the update, we were down about 18 or something like that. So we are improving, right? We're improving, we're heading up, we're trending up to the right, which is a good thing. I will, go over this portfolio more in depth towards the end of the stream for any new viewers who are joining us. And net annual income is 36,000. Of course, I take this with a grain of salt because this isn't accurate. May income, I know this is not accurate. It really should be closer to, I think, like $4,000, maybe $5,000 for the May income. And then we have our dividend yield on cost, right? So, I mean, this tool is kind of nice, but honestly, it's not as accurate. And it's because of the weekly payers. They fluctuate their dividends all the time. So is what it is. All right. For the American Association of Individual Investors, they completed their survey yesterday, and the results have been posted. All right. So we are looking bullish, right? What direction do all AAII members feel the stock market will be in the next 6 months? And 35% answered bullish, all right? Whereas 44% answered bearish. And then we have about 20% undecided. So, as you guys can see, this is like market sentiment right here, right? This is just a data point of where people are feeling, what people are thinking. Definitely back here, you guys could see that, this is where we're like at peak, pessimism. Markets were whipsawing like crazy, dropping like 5-10% a day, right? It was really, really wild. But we're starting to look better. It looks like we're going to have greener days. A lot of institutions are revising their forecasts, right? We're no longer, well, I'm not going to say we're no longer headed for a recession, but a lot of these larger institutions, like the JP Morgans, the Wells Fargos, the Morgan Stanleys, they're revising their recession forecast to predict lower chances of a recession, right? So that came on the news of the China-U.S. trade deal or tariff pause, which is a absolutely good thing, right? Everybody is winning from that. And I do mean that. Like everybody, like China had hundreds and hundreds of shipping container ships sitting out in their harbor, right? And it was a sight to see. Like if you've ever seen a shipping container, these things are massive, like huge, right? So to see hundreds of these things just sitting in the harbor with no place to go, that is a sight to see. So again, maybe one day I'll try to get that picture so I can show it to you guys, but it is very, very interesting. All right, so moving on. So this is going to be the biggest news that I want to cover. And, again, we're not going to get too deep into the politics. All right. We're not going to get too deep into the whole, good, right, wrong, moral ethic type of thing. I just want to talk about this. All right. So the Pentagon prepares a framework for the Golden Dome Defense Project. All right. The Golden Dome Defense Project is basically a missile defense project. And this thing is crazy. Like it is really wild when you read this, read more about it. Like I was reading this thing. I was like, this is crazy. This is something out of like a sci-fi movie. Right. But yes, the United States is creating this Golden Dome defense plan or project. And basically it's to mimic what, Israel has, because Israel has their Iron Dome, I think is what they refer to it as. It's basically a missile defense system or a defense system with a bunch of CRAMs, basically machine guns, postured at their border to shoot down rockets and missiles and things like that, right? And as you guys know, geopolitically speaking, China and the United States, while, on TV, everything looks good and everyone's happy, China still has plans to invade Taiwan. And the United States, of course, is going to intervene in some way, shape, or form to prevent that from happening. So again, this is the long game, guys. This is really the long game that the United States is playing, right? We're bringing high precision manufacturing back to the United States, technology, semiconductors, medicines, everything, right? Because COVID was a whole game changer for America. We discovered, and when I say we, I mean the U.S. government discovered that supply chains were absolutely destroyed during COVID. We couldn't even get a bunch of, basic things. So this is the whole idea under his current administration, the whole tariff game, the whole bigger plan is to basically reshore a lot of the higher precision technology manufacturing, which we're going to talk about because Apple is also affected by this. So we'll get into that in just a second. So anyways, getting back to this whole Pentagon preparing the Golden Dome. So the Pentagon completed an initial blueprint for the proposed Golden Dome air and missile defense system, according to the Department of Defense, as questions continue to surface regarding the feasibility and cost initiative promoted by the Trump administration. So you guys know Israel is a very small country. The United States is a very massive country. All right. We have the entire West Coast. We have the entire East Coast. To the south is our partners in Mexico, right? We don't, I can't imagine them invading us, right? We pretty good trade relationships, etc. To the north is Canadians, right? They're not going to invade the United States. So really our biggest, problem is probably going to be in Alaska, because Alaska is not too far from the Russian, Russian ocean, right? Russian country. So I could see where a Golden Dome initiative would make sense over there. But, to cover the entire United States, from West Coast to East Coast, that is going to be wild. That is going to be very, very crazy. But that is one of the biggest concerns about this project, is that, there's too much landmass to cover. Whereas with, with Israel, I mean, you could probably drive from one end to the other in like 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours will probably get you from like one Dunkin' Donuts to another Dunkin' Donuts, right? In the United States, like you're going to be in the same zip code. So it's just a thought is all. But anyways, going down here, these are the companies that are set to benefit from this. Okay. We talked about this, I think like a month or two ago, maybe it was a month ago. We talked about this Golden Dome and the partners that are being lined up, right? So we have SpaceX, headed by Elon. So SpaceX, / Tesla, whatever you want to call it, has emerged as a front runner to assist in developing the Golden Dome missile defense system. The company is collaborating with data analytics firm Palantir and defense company Anduril to build crucial components of the system. Their plan includes launching 400 to more than, more than 1,000 satellites for tracking, alongside a separate fleet of 200 attack satellites, potentially armed with missiles and lasers. Like, this thing is crazy. However, SpaceX is expected to focus solely on satellite tracking, not weaponization. So that is just crazy. I see in the chat, we got an old guard, Aloha State of Mind. Hey, welcome back. It's been a while since I've seen you, man. Hope you're doing well. But anyways, yeah, I'm still in Thailand, still out here just chilling. I got a whole new place. I don't know if you caught up. I'll have to show you some video or something. But yeah, I got a whole new place. You guys can see it right behind me. Got a whole new setup. So I'm actually living in a house now, not in a condo. As much as a condo was really nice and really luxurious, I wanted to, we had to make a decision to leave that area and move somewhere else. Yeah, Sauce Maker says it right there. Just Texas alone. Yeah, in Texas, in order to get from, in order to cross Texas, you need you have to get on an airplane. Like Texas, I didn't realize how freaking huge Texas was until I went there. I went to Fort Bliss, and I was like, in order to get to Bliss and to get to Houston or Dallas, one of the two, I think it was like a 3 or 4 hour flight. I was like, this is crazy. I never realized how big Texas is. Everything is big in Texas, right? Come on, Sauce Maker, help me out here. But anyways, yeah. So Palantir is going to be one of those companies, and I like to cover Palantir because I'm invested in them. So obviously I'm going to talk about them, but yeah, Palantir is going to be one of those companies that is going to benefit if this Golden Dome thing comes to fruition, if this actually, happens. And, Tesla, of course, I don't know if SpaceX is ever going to go public, but at least Tesla by proxy is probably going to benefit in some way, shape, or form, right? They have to. There's just no way that Tesla wouldn't benefit from something like this. Anduril, a lot of people are waiting for Anduril to come out as an IPO. I did see some not paperwork, but I saw some links that were basically talking about Anduril going IPO. Of course, it's still being kept really, really hush hush. So this was a lot of guessing work, but for Anduril, what they do is they produce some of the craziest autonomous weapons that the United States has, right? You're talking about autonomous drone systems, things loaded with missiles and guns. So this is going to, also be a benefit for, the warfighter who doesn't have to go out and risk their life. You could just have a bunch of drones take care of business for you. But I digress. Anyways. Palantir is definitely on top of mind. Again, I still think this is a great price to get into. I know there's a lot of bears out there that say this thing is overvalued. The PEs don't match up. The metrics, it's just overvalued, it's bubblicious. It's going to pop soon. I don't think so. Again, this announcement in Saudi Arabia is going to be huge for Palantir. And not just Saudi Arabia. You still have Qatar. You still have the other Gulf nations that can adopt Palantir commercially. Not just militarily, but commercially, okay? And then you still have the other countries that we're waiting on. The whole Saudi Arabian Middle Eastern trip was completely from left field. I had no idea about that. I would have never guessed. But you still have South Korea, you still have Taiwan, you still have Japan, you still have Southeast Asia that can adopt this. Like Singapore. Singapore has a massive financial hub. And I think if Palantir continues to wedge their way into the financial services sector, places like Singapore are probably going to adopt Palantir as well. So again, this is going to be really, really good for Palantir. Whether you love them or hate them, doesn't matter to me personally. I like the stock, so I'm going to invest in them. So that's it for the Golden Dome piece. Really interesting time, guys. It's just a really interesting time for us. So I have to show this because this is I listened to Donald Trump speak yesterday when he was in Qatar, man, and this guy he cracks me up every time. But I had to play this video. So let's get this going. I hope I don't blow out your eardrums.
He's going to be building the biggest factory anywhere in the world in Arizona.
He's talking about Apple, Tim Cook.
He's going to be building the biggest factory anywhere in the world in Arizona and spending over $200 billion. And we have Apple, as you know, it's coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India. We're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high. Look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building it.
So essentially, the net of this is that Apple's Tim Cook, to kind of diversify the supply chain a bit, because the whole China tariff thing really rattled markets. It really made a lot of companies rethink their supply chains, their logistics, things like that. So what Apple had to do was basically say, all right, since the whole China U.S. thing could pop off, and there's a trade war going on, let's move some of the factories to India, all right, because they have a growing economy as well. They have a workforce, et cetera, right? So Apple started building there, and just again geopolitical stuff. India and Pakistan started going to war with each other. Like literally, they were launching missiles at each other, and a bunch of people unfortunately were getting killed. Thankfully, as of yesterday or today, Donald Trump had struck a ceasefire with those two countries to basically stop for now, right? Work it out, open up trade negotiations, things like that, right? So right now, the war between those two countries is kind of settled. I wouldn't suspect that it's over, but it's at least, not escalating because these are two nuclear powered nations. But anyways, this is not about India or Pakistan. So anyways, getting back to this, Apple moved, Apple's building a plant there. And Trump is like, no, we need you to build in the United States, right? Because that's where you should be building, right? So moving on, Trump says he doesn't want Apple building products in India. I had a little problem with Tim Cook, he says. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday said he told Apple CEO Tim Cook that he doesn't want the tech giant to build its products in India, taking shots at the company's moves to diversify production away from China and urging him to pivot stateside. Again, high precision manufacturing. But we know that would pretty much raise the cost of iPhones. Like we know that. And I did see a little news blip. I didn't save it, but there was a news blip saying that iPhones could potentially cost way, way more in the future, right? I don't know what they're basing it on. I just read the headline. But Trump was referencing Apple's commitment to a $500 billion investment in the United States, which we covered back in February. Basically, it's going to be training for, workers to work in these high-end industries, these, data centers and things like that. Apple has been ramping up production in India with the aim of making around 25% of global iPhones in the country in the next few years, as it looks to reduce reliance on China, where 90% of its flagship smartphone is currently assembled. So again, trade wars ramping up between the United States and United States and China. This was enough to cause Apple to have to change their strategy and move it to India. Oh man, we got a certified freak in the chat. What's up, brother? All right, so that was pretty much it. The U.S. president added that Apple is going to be upping its production in the United States without disclosing further details. All right, so if you guys are Apple holders, Apple stockholders, just keep this in mind. I don't know if when they release these new prices on this phone, if it's gonna, the market is not going to like it. Scott Bessent, and I maybe I should include it in the next stream, but Scott Bessent was on stage the other day and he was talking about there needs to be a universal high income, right? Not just income, not just universal income. There needs to be universal high income. And that's what it plays into the master plan of this whole tax cut, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to get into the domestic politics of it, but if the cost of goods rise, then, there has to be something to give as well, for the American consumer, for consumers, right? So if everything lines up perfectly, maybe this won't really be a bump in the road for Apple or Apple stock. But if nothing comes to pass and phones cost too much, this could hurt Apple revenue. But again, they're sitting on a huge amount of cash. Like they're sitting on billions and billions of dollars worth of cash. So it's not going to defunk the company tomorrow, but it could be a potential risk in the future. It could be a potential headwind. All right. Unfriendly Stoic says 10,000 iPhone 16 built stateside. That's what I'm talking about. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. What inflation, right? Moving on, Nvidia owned $900 million in COREWEAVE stock as of March, the filing shows, all right? So we've covered this partnership, Nvidia and COREWEAVE. COREWEAVE is a data center, stock. They just recently IPO'd. They used to be an Ethereum mining company. And, now they are a data center specifically for artificial intelligence, right? So when their stock came out, it was kind of hammered. A lot of people didn't believe in it. They had, a lot of the C-suite executives were selling their shares right before the IPO. And there's a little bit of a negative history with, the owner of CoreWeave, Michael and Trader. So it was kind of weird that Nvidia would be backing a company like this, especially with the CEO. But if Nvidia is backing them, I'm hopeful that Jensen Huang knows what he's doing. He's done his due diligence on the gentleman. But yeah, Nvidia owns a lot of CoreWeave, all right? And that partnership is continuing to grow and is continuing to reflect in that share price because CoreWeave is slated to be the data center for a lot of these, artificial intelligence, I won't say softwares, but like the pick for these hyperscalers. So we'll see what happens. I like to cover CoreWeave because again, it's a good look into data centers without covering like a data center REIT, like DLR, Digital Realty Trust or Equinix. But CoreWeave does have its own problems. All right, CoreWeave does have its own problems. CoreWeave shares popped up 65% since the IPO this year. Nvidia is the biggest beneficiary. All right. So that was pretty much it for this piece. But CoreWeave impresses Wall Street during their earnings. They just had their earnings and they impressed a lot of people. But there was still more to the story. And we've said this, several times that running a data center is CapEx heavy. Okay. You got to buy the infrastructure. You got to buy the electricity. You got to buy the hardware, the stuff from, Nvidia. You got to hire the engineers. You got to hire the technicians to manage all this stuff. Like it's not a very cheap business. Even Digital Realty Trust, which is a REIT, or Equinix, which is another REIT. Both of these REITs are CapEx heavy, right? They're very, very CapEx heavy. CapEx is capital expenditures, and it's, the cost of just running the data centers. So, we'll just read through this article real fast. Bottom line, accruing large contracts from the most demanding generative AI users provides strong validation of CoreWeave's strong positioning for an opportunity we estimate can exceed $360 billion in 2028. That's wild. But given the high degree of volatility, we await further clarity on the cash flow ramp up before getting more fundamentally constructive, Weiss wrote. And Weiss is a Morgan Stanley analyst, all right? However, for investors with a strong conviction in the build out of the GPU economy, I like that, the GPU economy, and longer term investment horizons, CoreWeave should be considered as a core holding. All right. And then a quick update came out later. The company released more details in its 10Q filing saying that OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, will pay it up to $4 billion through April 2029, all right, to provide cloud computing capacity. So OpenAI has a huge contract with CoreWeave. I think it's like $12 billion, all right, and CoreWeave is one of the picks for the partnership for the Stargate project, all right. You have, there was this talk of like Microsoft backing off, and they're kind of ticked off because they thought they were going to be, the hyperscaler of choice and all this other stuff. They're still a partner. CoreWeave kind of like wiggled its way in, through Nvidia because Nvidia was backing this and Nvidia had chosen them, and Nvidia is giving them a ton of these chips, right? So CoreWeave is going to be like the premier data center for artificial intelligence in the future. So if you can hold, if you're interested in something like that, you could hold this stock. No idea what's going to happen to it. All right. It can go up even more or it can crash tomorrow. It still has a really, really negative, history right now. But I think as more of the artificial intelligence thesis continues to play out, CoreWeave will definitely be a benefactor of that. I was very bearish on CoreWeave. I still kind of am, but I think this is still a really good, interesting stock. So if anyone is interested in looking into it further, it is definitely available. So CoreWeave CEO came out and defended their CapEx plans because that was the major criticism of CoreWeave by analysts, is that they're spending way too much money, it's going to take way too long for them to turn a profit, etc. But that's pretty much any tech company that first starts up. I mean, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, all those companies were spending way too much money. They weren't even making a profit, and then they kind of skyrocketed later. So I don't know, maybe that's just a theme for tech companies. That's why I still believe in Palantir, because even though it doesn't match up to current metrics or valuations and all that other stuff, I think it's still, it's going to rocket eventually. Just my, thoughts, of course. CoreWeave CEO Michael Trader reinforced the company's plans to spend on growth to feed demand for its infrastructure following the first earnings report since its market debut in March. The renter of artificial intelligence servers expects CapEx of $20 billion to $23 billion for the year. That's a lot of freaking money that they're spending on their data centers, right? That's just to run them and purchase the equipment, get it all installed, and then again, hire the engineers, have the technicians to manage this stuff. All right. The range included the impact of recent OpenAI deal and other factors. Shares of CoreWeave whipsawed post earnings even after it posted strong revenue growth and guidance. The stock closed down 2.5%. All right. The increase in the CapEx budget is driven by success with the company, Michael and Trader said. Some investors raised issues over the company's debt and sustainability for the demand of Nvidia-backed company, which depends on businesses renting out to AI or AI companies. And Trader told CNBC the financing remains strong and the company continues to be able to repay lenders within the terms of the contracts. This was a big one right here because there was a lot of talk right before their IPO'd that they have a ton of debt a ton of debt. And again, being CapEx heavy, they need a lot of fresh cash and they need to take on a lot of debt. And that was one of the biggest criticisms that they also had when they IPO'd. All right, but again, that seems to be any tech company these days. All right. So anyways, they look at the contracts, they understand the contracts, the banks, right? The people lending them the money, and they understand our business and they continue to lend us money so that we can scale and deliver. So again, Microsoft Nvidia partnership by proxy through CoreWeave. They have a partnership with OpenAI for a $12 billion contract. And that's just all good, right? And OpenAI is going to give them $4 billion all the way up through 2029 of April. So that they're going to use their data center to basically continue with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and everything else. So again, I talked about this whole American stack that Sam Altman talked about. Everything's going to be American, the American artificial intelligence stack. The power is going to be American, right? Nuclear power. Then you have the hardware, the software, everything is going to be all American based, all American companies. So this is, again, really, really exciting times, especially for us as investors. All right, so moving on from CoreWeave, just a look at their share price. This is what it looks like, okay? This is when they initially IPO'd. They were supposed to be up in the 50s, but they didn't get that much interest, so they had to lower it down to 40. Then they saw that spike, and then, here comes Liberation Day, killed everybody. And, they've just been up ever since. 85% from its lows, right? From its all-time lows. If you bought during the IPO, you would be up 64%. So again, maybe the stock is improving. Maybe the story around CoreWeave is improving. I'm liking what I'm seeing, but again, I'm still not going to open a position in CoreWeave anytime soon. So I think this is just, again, a really interesting stock. All right, White House announces AI data center campus partnership in the United Arab Emirates. This just came out, okay? So the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, this is where the White House is currently with the slew of other, execs. So they're in there, they're making deals. Just real quick, they're just building an artificial intelligence campus, which is really, really cool. Nvidia's Jensen Huang, OpenAI Sam Altman, SoftBank's Masayoshi Son, and Cisco's president Jeetu Patel were all in the UAE for President Donald Trump's visit. That is really good. So I'm hoping there's going to be some more good news today. Well, Friday. That's Thursday, still your time. But I'm hoping there's going to be a lot more good news for Nvidia because today was kind of a muted day. There wasn't really a whole lot of good news or bad news. There was some economic data that came out. Stocks kind of just lulled around, right? They didn't really go up, they didn't really go down. But I think with the news coming out of the UAE tomorrow, I think we'll see something really, really good. Again, Trump had hinted at some really, really good news for Friday. So hopefully he will mention that, all right? In the UAE, American companies will operate the data centers and offer American-managed cloud services throughout the region. Again, the American Artificial Intelligence Stack. You're going to have SMCI, Supermicro. All right, you're going to have AMD. You're going to have Nvidia. You're going to have, who else? You're going to have Oracle. You're going to have Microsoft. You're going to have all these huge people, all these huge players in that region. And again, I say we, the United States, a lot of these chip companies could not send their chips to, the Middle East. They were capped because of the AI diffusion rule. But because that is either being repealed or changed or whatever, Trump made a bunch of deals apparently, and now all these companies are able to send their chips over to the UAE. And I did hint in the community, let me see if I can find it. I did hint that there was some news. Yes, the U.S. has a preliminary agreement with the United Arab Emirates to allow to import 500,000 of Nvidia's advanced AI chips per year. Look at that. That is crazy, right? That is absolutely crazy. That is going to be a huge boost for Nvidia. Nvidia demand for years to come, all right? Years to come. So again, all the bears are going to get crushed. They're going to get crushed. That's all I can say. I really think they're going to get crushed. Okay, guys. So I just want to cover this real fast. All right, we're at minute 30, so I'm just going to cover this real quick. This is the Titans watch list, right? This is my new Mag 7 watch list, all right? I know this is cheesy as hell, but these are the companies I'm keeping an eye on, all right? And I updated it. I added Archer. I added Rigetti and D-Wave and Qtum, all right, which is the Defiance Quantum ETF. I still need to do a little more research into these two. I haven't really covered them as much. Archer is something that's kind of interesting. So shout out to Alex. He's the one who actually posted this in the Discord and mentioned it. So I added it. It does look kind of interesting because they're starting to kind of veer away from commercial adoption of their VTOL system, and they're moving it to the defense sector. So I don't know, man. Maybe there's going to be some cool stuff coming out soon. I added Tesla back in. I know Tesla is already part of the Mag 7, so is Nvidia. But with Tesla right now, they're doing a lot of crazy stuff. That robotic stuff is here to stay. And not only that, guess who provides the chips to Tesla bots and Tesla cars and everything else, right? Nvidia. So there you go. All right. I'm still hesitant about keeping Tesla in here. I just want to keep it just in case any news comes out. So I'll be able to hop on that. The rest of these are mostly semiconductors. All right. And you guys know that I invest into Chippy, which is from YieldMax. So I just get to capture pretty much the market for semiconductors. And I think semiconductors are going to be the next wave, right? They're going to be the next wave right after the Mag 7. Because the Mag 7 is primarily the hyperscalers. The Amazon, Microsoft, Google, those are your three big hyperscalers. Apple's coming out with their own AI. Again, it'll probably be more for their users. And I mean, I don't own an iPhone, so I could care less about it. But I think those three, the Mag 7 after them is definitely going to be a lot of semiconductors. So that's why I'm betting big on the semiconductor space. Of course, I'm going to add Palantir. Palantir is going to be the premier AI company, I think, for not only the defense sector, but is starting to bleed into the financial services sector. So I think there's going to be a lot of use cases for Palantir, especially for manufacturing as well. Okay. They do already have a couple use cases of where Palantir software improve the efficiency of manufacturing. So we'll see what comes of this. Maybe TSMC is going to adopt this or something. I don't know. So anyways, one bit of news, right? One bit of crypto news. All right. And this was sent to me in a message from a gentleman named Justin. So shout out to you, Justin, if you're watching the stream. But Mastercard is going to roll out a new stablecoin card in the latest crypto push with MoonPay. All right. I don't know too much about crypto, but I am covering this because I know there's some in the audience that do follow crypto, do like crypto. All right. MoonPay has tapped Mastercard to launch global stablecoin card services, expanding the card giant's crypto push amid competition with Visa. So now you have Visa and MasterCard competing to be, the first players on the field with crypto cards. Visa is also piloting a stablecoin service in 6 Latin American countries. There's all that talk in it's not Venezuela, Uruguay, Paraguay, or something like that. I don't know. Or El Salvador. One of those countries, they adopted the Bitcoin as like a national currency, right? So that is really cool to see that crypto is starting to make its way in other countries, and that you have major backers like Visa and MasterCard that are actually partnering with these, exchanges to offer this stuff to people. So again, this could be a huge change. And again, this this kind of lays onto the fact that less regulation in the crypto space, right? It's making it easier for these companies to make these moves. So again, that's a really good sign. Mastercard has inked another partnership with crypto company to provide stablecoin powered cards, enabling users and businesses to make and receive payments in stablecoins worldwide. This is a big deal. So more and more money, I think, is going to flow into these things. Again, personally, I don't invest too much into crypto. I have like a little bit of XRP and a little bit of Bitcoin, but that's about it. You know, I have been toying with the idea of something linked to MicroStrategy, and that's a preview, of course, because I am doing a lot of research on MicroStrategy right now. You know, there's a lot of Misty holders out there, but I'm waiting for one particular ETF to get launched, and if that ETF gets launched sometime soon, I'll definitely probably be buying that. All right, not financial advice. You guys know the spiel. All right, so let's look at the markets and then we'll wrap it all up with a portfolio update and then we'll end the stream, guys. But before we do, we had a poll. Would you buy CoreWeave as a single stock or as a covered call version? All right, 17% of you said single stock for growth and 83% of you said I like some growth in income. All right, me personally, if I had, I don't know, if I had $10,000, I would probably go with the single stock. Me personally, just because I like the growth, I would rather go with the growth. I could see CoreWeave, you know, if things work out well, I could see that stock definitely breaching $100. Don't ask me what the math is behind that because I couldn't give it to you, but I definitely could see it at least reaching $100. So I would go for growth. The income thing would be whatever for me. That would be a long, you know, 5+ year hold for me if I was to do that. But that is that for the poll. All right, let's move into the market stuff. So S&P 500, we are up 41 basis points for the day. Again, we ended in the green, which is always a good sign and always something we like to see. We ended up 7 basis points for the NASDAQ, not in the red. We had a huge pump in the morning and then it kind of just died down. So that was kind of crappy because we would have been up 1.13%. All right, so it is what it is. But hey, we're not in the red, so I'll take it. Bitcoin, doing very well this year. Well, you know, recovering anyways. It's actually, I think, the second best performing asset year to date. If we look here, yeah, S&P is still recovering. The NASDAQ is obviously still recovering. Bitcoin was the worst performing asset. Now it's like the best performing, right? Right before gold. Okay, gold had a really good run up yesterday. Wow, holy crap. I don't know why it's showing down. Let's see. Oh, I don't know, but it had a really good run up anyways. Today, you know, we're up. Why does it say 0? I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with this chart. But we were up, what, 3.5%. That's really, really good for gold. So there was a lot of inflows for gold. I think this was probably, I mean, you guys can, you know, your guess is as best as mine, but this is probably just people taking advantage of buying gold during that dip, right? Market sentiment is still changing. Year to date, gold is still one of the best performing assets. You know, there was a lot of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, you know, who knows if how long we're going to be in tariffs, how long we're going to be in this trade war. So a lot of people were flocking to gold for currency hedging, for risk and for, you know, recession protection, right? They're doing all this stuff into gold. So it looks like we're starting to do all right. All right. 10-year treasury came down just a little bit. Again, nothing exciting here. All right. VNQ, real estate index ETF, this actually popped quite a bit. All right. I don't know why. I don't know what good news or what the catalyst is for it, but it did have a good day today. It was up almost 1.5%. All right. So again, you guys know whenever an index moves either 1% up or down, that'll pretty much give you a good gauge of how the market's doing, right? A percent is pretty decent, a pretty decent day, or a really bad day. So that's it for the markets. Let's move into the portfolio updates and then we will close out the stream. All right, so here we got the portfolio. As always, I like to show you guys how much margin I'm in. All right, I'm in a lot of margin. You guys can see it right there. Pretty much margin to the tits, as it were. So buffer is still looking pretty healthy. I'd have to see an account drawdown of $43,000 before I get margin called. So, you know, as long as this market continues trending up to the right, should be safe, should be okay. There was definitely some darker days in April and after Liberation Day. Now, sitting on $3,400 of buying power. So I'll probably deploy that maybe next week. I haven't decided if I want to buy anything yet. Last week, I called it at the right time. I bought Nvidia, bought Chippy, and I bought Palantir or PLTW, NVW, and Chippy right before this Saudi Arabian trip. And that was only because Trump was like, oh, you should buy stocks now, right? So that was pretty much the catalyst for me. Didn't need to hear anything else after that. So anyways, no market manipulation, promise. But anyways, so no changes, no new buys. All right, I'm expecting some dividend income from XDTE and from Chippy. So I'll cover that probably in tomorrow's stream, how much I got. So no changes here. If we're looking at, I got one more portfolio to cover, and then we are done for the stream. So I know we're ending the stream kind of early, but there wasn't that much news. There really wasn't that much news in today for stocks. So let's see. Man, this portfolio is looking frothy, bro. Okay. Portfolio is looking good. This is my M1 Finance portfolio. This is where I keep all my REITs, and this is where I keep a huge, hefty VGT technology ETF, all right, ticker VGT, and then my BDCs and crypto, and then this is a kind of a meme company. It's my former employer. I like to just make sure that they're delivering shareholder value to me, all right? So anyways, REITs, again, popped up. We had that 1.5% up to the right. So my REITs recovered very nicely. Again, this has just been fluctuating up and down. I mean, we can look, let's see, if we look over the last month, I mean, it's just been up and down, up and down, up and down, right? We're still waiting on those interest rates to come down. I really don't think we're going to see 2 rate cuts this year. I'm starting to believe that story that we're not going to see 2 rate cuts this year, but we'll see. Real estate has been really unloved this year, so more to follow from there. But technology, again, I put $170,000 into this ETF, and later that day, it just kept dropping like crazy, right? I was down to 124,000 at one point. Yeah, that's crazy. 125,000. That was a huge drawdown. Really, really scary stuff. I was expecting this to continue going down at least 30%. Thankfully, we didn't go that low. So this has recovered quite nicely, and I'm just going to hold it. Again, I'm not doing any new buys or anything in this portfolio. I'm just kind of letting it ride the waves as it goes. I do want to add a credit opportunity fund to this, a closed-end fund. That ticker is FSCO. I haven't pulled the trigger on that. I still need to do a lot more research, but FSCO to me looks really interesting, okay? We could take a look at that right now. Let's see. FSCO. So FSCO, again, this is it's actually a stock. It's a closed-end fund. And this one was given to me by one of the members in Discord. Blackbeard is his username, so shout out to you. But yeah, I liked this, and what this is just a proxy for private credit. Private credit is really interesting. If you guys ever check it, it's what a lot of private equity companies use. They raise these private credit funds to basically, lend out money and then make money on that interest. Essentially, is what it is. But I do like it. This does have like a 10% dividend yield or 11% dividend yield now. So, other than that, I mean, it looks good. It's not, one of the high yielders, but this is something I would definitely hold for a very, very long time. I mean, if we look at this thing, it's just been growing, right? This is not 5 years. It just came out, I think, 3 years ago. Yeah. And Wedbush Securities, Dan Ives, we talked about him on this channel plenty of times. They have a position in this fund. So, there is something there. And, I think this is a great fund, and it probably has way more room to run. But again, this is not really a super high growth type of opportunity. It's not a tech stock, and you're going to have to wait a long time. But while you wait, you can make a lot of money off just the dividend income. All right. So outside of that, guys, I think that's it for the portfolio updates, man. I don't see anything else in the chat. So I'm going to assume that, people are driving, getting ready for bed, probably brushing their teeth or taking, probably on the toilet. So other than that, guys, I think that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next stream. You guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. And again, thank you for joining. I'll see you next time. Take care.